And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba and the Bloom, episode 64. Have a slew of Bloom boards. We are back. There's been no baseball. We were off for a week. We got tons of Bloom board action to get you ready for the second half of the baseball season. We'll talk about some recent news. There's a little bit, even though there's been no baseball. Play our weekly game, which is a mess with 3 games this week, and much, much more. You can find me on Twitter at BDintric, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod, and my co-host, as always, on Twitter at RyanBHQ. Ryan Bloomfield, how we doing, my friend?
Refreshed, revived. I'm missing baseball. So the reason we did not record last week because of me. I was on vacation, so I kind of unplugged from baseball, and then I came back, and then the All-Star break happened. So it's been like almost 2 weeks for me to get back in the groove.
It's a good week to unplug when there's no baseball. I know you unplugged a little before that, but you had the right timing in mind. I know I've seen a handful of fantasy baseball guys that have been in the mountains camping and other things, kind of letting loose, and I don't blame them. It'd be a great thing to do right about now. So we get baseball. By the time you guys listen to this show, it'll probably be Friday, and you get ready for 15 games on the docket and all that good stuff, and we're back at it for the second half of the baseball season. So we'll get you all ready for that as usual. Before we get to there, though, our normal shameless plug: First Pitch Arizona is coming up in November. And the conference is amazing. We've said enough. We gush over the conference all the time. What I'm here for is we have a golf outing on the Thursday beforehand, and it's slowly filling up, actually, which is great to hear. It's you might see links here and there on certain emails that might come out. I don't know, just throwing things out there. But Ryan, what do you got for us on our wonderful round 2, our second annual Bubba and the Bloom First Pitch Arizona golf tournament? That's what I'm gonna call it.
we got to work on the we got to work on the marketing of this thing.
Unofficially brought to you by Hind Hands.
Yeah. We should probably settle on a name first, and then we'll go from there. I think we got like 3 full tee times already. Last year we had 2, so we should at least double it this year. And I think we've got 12 of us, not locked in, but people that are interested in coming. So
at least half of them are new, which is awesome.
Yeah, new faces, new folks. So yes, cannot wait. Did I book my flights? Yeah, I booked my flights.
Oh yeah, you booked your flights. We're waiting on the hotel code. We've booked flights. We're locked in. We're committed. So it's happening.
Yep.
So that's the shameless plug that we're going to give you every episode, probably for the next couple months, because that's what we do here. But let's get to some recent news. There was a little bit, as I mentioned. We'll start with the big news that I think shocked a lot of people on Wednesday was announced. The Oakland Athletics are promoting 2 of their top 3 prospects in Tyler Sodestrom and Zack Gelof. Sodestrom, catcher, first base, rumored to play split duties with Langoliers and play some first base with Noda. And then Gelof will play second and third base, is what is being reported early on. Big time power from Sodestrom. Gelof, power and speed. Both strike out a ton. You've probably done some digging in the Baseball HQ archives, Ryan. So what do you have on these guys?
Yeah, Sodestrom I actually didn't know too much about, but he was number 4. So HQ this week put out their midseason top 50 fantasy prospects, and Tyler Sodestrom was number 14. That was pretty impressive to me. And then even more, I guess, interesting for fantasy is I think he's going to be catcher eligible in most leagues. I'm not sure what it'll be in NFBC, but I know in FanTrack Sodestrom is catcher eligible. So anybody who's catcher eligible in 2 catcher leagues is obviously worthy of looking at. The only thing with Sodestrom, but really both of these guys, 30% almost strikeout rates at AAA. Like that's the first thing I kind of look at when seeing, like, at least for redraft and short term, how is this going to pan out? And so I'm a little bit worried. They both flashed some power, like you said, Bubba, like the 20 home runs for Sodestrom and AAA. That's good. At Reno, how good is that? I don't know. So I don't know. I put in some loose bids on Sodestrom, but I'm not gonna go too crazy. Same with Gelof.
It's actually worse than Reno. It's Vegas.
Vegas. Oh man,
it's even worse than Reno.
Getting my Nevadas.
The D-backs are the Reno Aces. I only know that because of better part of 13 years of my life. Yes, Sodestrom, 20 home runs, hit about 254. I did write these numbers down for a thing earlier, so I have them memorized. 1 stolen base. You mentioned the strikeouts. Gelof's the one that's actually more intriguing to me, honestly, With he's going to play second and third, so you're going to get that multi-position eligibility at some point in time. I'm not sure what NFBC will start him at, second or third, but he had 12 homers, 20 stolen bases. That's the one. Like we talk about it all the time when you're looking for certain stats throughout the season. Where can you find certain ones? This could be your steals guy for the second half of the season.
True. Yep.
There's probably other guys that'll come around or whatever. I get that. But we know the A's will let guys run. Esteury Ruiz, great example of that one. So if Gelof can get on, and the other one, Gelof over Sodestrom, Gelof strikes out a ton. I could be pronouncing this wrong. I apologize now.
I think that's right. I actually did some prep. Obviously not the AAA City, but I did look up the Gelof pronunciation, and that is it on YouTube at least.
Good. He does strike out a lot, but he also walks like almost 14% of the time. So his OBP skills are very strong. So that'll help him get on, steal some bags, score some runs. And we talk about like second base especially. Some of these positions are getting pretty scarce with injuries these days. So I like the I guess forecast for Gelof a little more. Both could be great. I'm curious with Sodestrom because you already have Langoliers who plays regularly. And he's going to split duties with Langoliers, which is still good. Like you mentioned, a two-catcher league, you'll take that. And then with Ryan Noda, who's been playing really well for the most part. So it's not like they're going to bench Noda full time, but maybe he platoons also. So we'll see how that goes. Sodestrom's only 21. Better remember that. Gelof's very young as well. So it's good the A's are doing this, ironically, when all hell's breaking loose in Oakland. But I can't – there's different sites obviously have different rankings for teams' prospects. But I saw a few sites. The top three prospects for the A's, it's Sodestrom, Mason Miller, Zack Gelof. So all three have made an appearance this year now, which is saying a lot for a team that pretty much does not know how to run a team. So that's pretty impressive stuff. So we'll see. I'm curious to see how this week and how they utilize their playing time as they host the Minnesota Twins in Oakland.
I would think Gelof from a playing time standpoint, that's kind of the part we haven't hit on yet. I think he's a little bit safer. I mean, Jace Peterson at third base, is that really
I think
holding
you got
back?
To see what you got with Gelof by now.
Yeah. The Noda thing is interesting. Like if I'm the A's, I trade Noda. Like I think Ryan Noda has a ton of. He's 27 years old. Like I don't think this is a long-term piece or anything like that. And OBP above, I believe up 4.
He's one of the top OBP guys in baseball.
Yeah. So like I think Noda. I wouldn't be surprised if Noda's traded, especially because if that does open up some playing time for Sodestrom and for Noda specifically, that would be pretty sweet.
My question with Noda, though, and I don't know all the exact rules, is he's a Rule 5 guy. That's why he started the season with the A's. That's why they had to keep him on the active roster. I don't know if you can trade Rule 5 guys or not. That's my curiosity point there. I could be wrong. I think because I know like the first year you have to keep them on your 40 man the entire year type thing. Otherwise, you have to give them back to their previous team. So I don't know how that would work with the trade situation.
It is. I just looked it up. Clubs may trade a player selected in the Rule 5, but the same restrictions apply to the new organization. So whoever gets Noda has to keep them on the thing. I do wonder. The follow-up would be like, it would be like, how many Rule 5 guys have actually been traded?
Valid,
but that's
valid. That's valid as well.
It's probably an immaculate grid question or something.
There you go. The A's are doing things. That's just what it's like. You have that poking gif, like do something gif. The A's really is doing something. So we'll see how that plays out. Stop us if we've heard these concerns before. We don't want certain guys playing in the home run derby because of injury. I've never been that guy. I just want to have a good time, and what happens. Luis Robert strained his calf towards the end of round 1, still hit round 2, got eliminated, actually hit the longest home run in the entire tournament in round 2, ironically, 480 feet, which is kind of funny. But he has a strained calf. He says he's day-to-day. They're not overly concerned, but this is Lou Bob, Ryan, and we've seen these things with Lou Bob before. So I'm not warm and fuzzy about this. Like, I was already kind of pre-setting lineups earlier today, and I'm sitting there staring at Robert going, they really should probably give him the weekend off, but I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can kind of do is wait. This is some flashbacks to last season when Robert was like the most frustrating fantasy player to have on your team in all of baseball. Hate to see it. Hope it's minor. Hope they're not lying to us and that you can keep them in. But I don't know. Not really much you can do. Like, you're holding Lou Bob and you're putting him in if he's active and you're not if he's not. But the Derby, did you watch the Derby?
Yes, I recorded it actually and watched it the next day while I was doing stuff. So yes, I watched most of it.
Dedication. The Julio thing was awesome.
41 home runs.
41 was
in one
really
round.
cool. Your boy couldn't. The funniest thing was was Alonso. Like,
he sucks.
And the Mets, the Mets pitching coach or whoever was supposed to throw to Alonso got hurt, and so this dude who came in, Allen, I think his last name was like painting the outside corner throughout. It was hilarious.
I think Pitching Ninja made a GIF of his location.
Some overlays and like
yes, it was pretty good.
It was Alonso did not get visibly frustrated at Allen, but he had some tough pitches to hit.
Well, then you had Adley Rutschman, whose dad was pitching. Adley loses by 1 to Lou Bob, and if Adley's dad actually pays attention and pitches fast like everybody else, Adley might have beat Lou Bob in round 1. It was also cool watching him switch hit in the bonus round. That was fun for Adley. So,
and if that happened, if Adley beat Lou Bob, we may not have this injury.
Bingo. See, now we're piecing things
together. So we're blaming this all on Papa
Adley's
Rutsch.
Dad. Yep. Papa Rutsch. Not good, buddy. But the Derby continues to get better with these new rules. I know some people think it's kind of like it's just, I don't know. Some people actually don't like it, which surprised me. I think those are people that like to get off your lawn people. But like this is fun for baseball. It's awesome. It's just entertainment. You got these young kids for the most part coming in and doing it. It's hard not to be enjoying the Derby. So I hope they continue to do stuff like that. On the game side of things, not a bad game. You know, I don't get too hyped up for the game anymore, really. I know a lot of people said it, like we already get interleague play, and it seems like, you know, you get the NBA All-Star game and it's nonstop, like 180 to 185, and you got the NFL Pro Bowl and it's crazy. Baseball's still baseball, and it's just like, okay, it was 3-2. Elias hit the home run. But where I'm going with this, Jordan Romano, if you were a Giants fan in 2002, you know how Dusty Baker does not know how to utilize a bullpen. Dusty Baker says Jordan Romano tweaked his back warming up to come into the game. Then Dusty still brings him into the game, lets him face one batter and throw 5 pitches, and then takes him out of the game. I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you just hope. Yeah, did you see the tweet where someone who, I don't even know if it's an actual media member, someone who has a baseball podcast ran into Romano at the airport, and Romano said he felt good and that it was minor. So
I'm hoping so.
So that's far from the definitive word, but that did happen. I mean, maybe throw something at Eric Swan. I think Eric Swanson would be the guy in Toronto. I mean, Swanson actually has, I think, 21 holds, which is either
very good.
Yeah, I think it's like second or tied for second for the most in the majors. So like they obviously trust him in the 8th. I think Swanson would move into the 9th, has a 16% swinging strike rate, some walk issues and fly ball issues, but I don't know. It sounds like it's minor with Romano, but maybe if, you know, this is stash season and nobody has really been available in Fab at the closer position, which we'll talk about once we get into the bloom boards a little bit. So if you want to throw a buck or two on Swanson in not the hopes, I don't want to be Curland here, in the hopes that Romano is injured, Swanson could work out.
The guy I'm throwing darts at is Nate Pearson. I'm a big fan of what he's doing, throwing gas in the bullpen like he should be. He picked up a save 2 outings ago. He hasn't allowed a run in his last 7 2/3 innings. That's the guy I'm looking to. You could get him for a buck. So
you'd bid on Pearson over
I think Swanson's great, and I'm not disagreeing. Like, if you just look in theory, he should be probably the guy, but Pearson's the dark horse that I'm looking at. If it were a serious thing for Romano, bright side is we get 3 games to find out before waiver wires are active on Sunday night. Yep. Last bit of news, kind of minor news, just to let anybody know that setting lineups on Friday. Michael Kopech is returning from the IL starting on Friday for his quote-unquote, he had to get his head right IL stint. He's back on Friday. It's official. Just want to throw it out there because there hasn't been a ton of news, but that's what we got.
I'm guessing it's been a slow drip all-star break, and I'm guessing Friday is going to be pretty action-packed as teams report back. But
there's going to be a lot of just what the heck happened stuff. I will say this much: when I was doing the First Pitch podcast, Shane McClanahan played catch in the outfield on Thursday. He is still scheduled to start on the 16th, which is Sunday. So that has not changed. He'll be in. That was Kevin Cash that said that, the manager of the Rays. So that's another bit of news if you're looking for something for the weekend. All right. You have the lead. I'll leave you this to talk about. weekly
Oh,
matchups.
it's been such a run, man. So this is a 2-week delay. We did not, with no show last week, no picks, but I have now
You iced
won.
yourself. You iced yourself.
No. This heater's going. This heater made it through Canada, made it through northern Idaho. This heater is.
Not many things make it through Canada and come back alive.
I have won 7 of the last 8 matchups, and so for new listeners, for reminders, we're picking one hitter, one pitcher, kind of match play style. Whoever wins that week gets the win. I've won the last 4 hitters and 3 of the last 4 pitchers. So we actually both kind of crushed our picks last time. Andy Ibanez had 9 points over Matt Vierling's 8. And again, we're using total bases plus walks for that. Bubba went back to the Osvaldo Beto.
Yeah, didn't go very well.
Did not go very well. So yeah, my first time in the lead, I think, all year. So let's see how
you know what the worst part is, looking at these since you've made your quote unquote run, they've been pretty close outside of the Beto one last week. Banya's 9-8. Like, those are pretty good streams in either one of them. I'm just gonna throw that out there for everybody watching at home. He's not crushing me. Let's just talk about that.
What I want to know, Bubba, is when you're going to get desperate enough to start phoning friends. We've had listeners, we've had Ben Tidd offer his services to help you out.
I talked to Ben live on my show a couple weeks ago, and he said, "Hey, my phone's on, buddy. My phone's on."
You may want to consider that, man.
Problem is, Ben, I don't have your number to activate your phone, so we have a problem there. Plus, he's in bed. This is too late for Ben. I'm not waking him up over some little game.
Wow. We'll see. We'll see. Once that lead goes to 4 or 5, that may change.
Yeah. You know what? It's not going to change, though. There's some awesome matchups this week. If you look at the Baseball HQ weekly hitting matchup starts, we have a weekend in Great American between the Brewers and the Reds. We have Coors Field, Yankees and Rockies. We got the Rays that'll do damage no matter where they go, it feels like. What are you seeing when you look at the matchup grids that really, really stand out for you?
Yeah, you've also those are the big ones. You've also got Atlanta, who, like, I don't know when the Braves have last faced a left-handed pitcher. I feel like I say this every single time, but like Eddie Rosario is a great play, but Eddie Rosario is universally rostered. But the Braves get 3 more righties this weekend. It seems like every single time that happens. The Rays at Kansas City, that's going to be a bloodbath. And then obviously the flip side of that, Kansas City at Tampa, that's HQ's hardest matchup of the week. And it sounds like at this point, most pitching matchups are solidified by Thursday night. There may be a few stragglers coming in on Friday, but yeah, those are big ones.
Yep, it's going to be a fun weekend. We got baseball back. What's going to be fun is when I beat you this weekend, but I'll let you go first. So who you picking on the mound this week?
I went Colby Allard, and I picked this earlier today, so I just want to make sure he's still pitching. Yes, he is going. Yep, against Dylan Cease and the White Sox. I don't know. I trust the Braves. I watched a good bit of Allard's first start, which again just kind of came out of nowhere. But those 8 Ks, and I'm kind of banking on that to continue. So Colby Allard, not just for this game. I think while Allard is in the Atlanta rotation, I don't know how long that will last with Max Fried on the rebound trail. But Colby Allard, at least for the next start or two, I think is a great play. Pitched 8 Ks in his first start, 3 against the Guardians on the 4th of July, and then just made a relief appearance. But that's what I'm taking this week.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad. I have one that I don't even want to watch, and I'm just going to hope it, when we talk next Thursday, pans out well. It's Steven Matz. He did go 5 1/3 shutout innings with 9 Ks against the White Sox in his first start back in rotation since May 24th, when he got demoted to the bullpen, where he's been hit and miss, let's put it that way, in the bullpen. He gets the Washington Nationals on Saturday, going up against Jake Irvin. He's actually been decent of late as well. Nationals are pesky, don't strike out a ton, but I'll take my chances because if they're going to strike out a ton, at least of late, it's usually been against lefties. So I'm just hoping Matz can put together like 5 more innings and rack up some strikeouts. I'm not overly confident. This is not a good week to stream pitchers. We almost didn't put pitchers on this board. So I'm going to go Steven Matz, though, with my choice.
I mean, 9 Ks last time, 75 pitches. That's the thing with Matz. I don't know how long, how deep he'll go into the game. Yeah. But I don't know. He's at least been missing bats lately. You can say that about Steven.
Better than usually missing the field because it's in the seats. So that's good.
Here we go.
Who's your bat this week?
Since you stole mine right before the show, I was going to take Josh Donaldson and kind of leverage the Coors situation. I instead went with the other good ballpark, Great American Small Park, against the Reds. I went Brian Anderson, who I think still going to play every day at third base. And those matchups, that Reds rotation, man, it is absolutely brutal. I think they need to make a move in the second half and then get Green, Lodolo back, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, that Reds, especially when the Reds are at home, that's a matchup you absolutely need to target for fantasy. So Brian, and I'm just kind of picking one. I could have gone Terang, but I don't know if Terang's going to play against lefties. So Anderson's my guy. Even though he hasn't been that great lately, he was fantastic to start the season. But this is pretty much all matchup based.
Yeah, I'm going, like you said, Josh Donaldson, Coors Field. We'd use walks and total bases here. He's walking over 12% of the time over the last 2 weeks. Got 4 home runs and a double over the last 2 weeks out of his 7 hits. I'm just looking for him to take advantage of Coors Field. More importantly, take advantage of Austin Gomber, Chase Sebald, and Connor Sebald and Chase Anderson. Yep. That's what I'm looking forward to him taking advantage of, are those 3 pitchers, which are like maybe quad A pitchers at best on a real baseball team. So I'm going to go with Donaldson there. He might go 1 for 5 every game. If that one's a double or better, gets a walk or 2, I'll take my chances there. So, yeah, Donaldson for me was pretty easy pick on this week's slate.
The interesting thing to me about Donaldson is 2/3 of his hits are home runs this year.
That's 4 points every time he does it, baby.
He's got 10 hits, 15 home runs, or 15 hits, 10 home runs. That's pretty wild.
Yep, it's a beautiful thing that Mr. Donaldson has going on. He's bad. He's very, very, very bad. But what isn't bad, let's get right to it. You went crazy. I almost texted you and be like, hey, save some of these for the show, dude. Like, you're throwing out so many awesome Bloom boards. He's comparing ADPs, or I'll let you. It's ADP versus ranks. I'll let you have the floor, though. What ADPs are we using? What ranking system are you using? How are we going about these Bloom boards tonight, which we got covering all positions? It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, made up for lost time, man. So what I decided to do with the downtime that we have over the break is go over and review the ADP from the NFBC main event. So these were all kind of late in draft season drafts. Compare that with the 5x5 ranking of each of these guys through the first half from Razzball's Player Rater. So just an interest, and then in true Bloom board style, color coded, that sort of thing. You just kind of see, like, from the preseason ADP, which positions have kind of hit the most up top, which have been kind of the craziest, and posted that for starting pitchers and closers. I don't think I posted anything else. Maybe outfielders. I can't remember. But for the show tonight, we'll talk about starting pitchers, relievers, but then I also did outfield, corner, middle, and catcher. So, like, this could be a 3-hour podcast if we went through and talked about every single name and that sort of thing, but more just like looking at, I don't know, at a high level at each position, what has worked and has not worked out so far from some of these pockets. Because some of the, I can remember talking back about, different pockets of ADP when we did our, like, 100 to 150 ADP, 150 to 200. Remember saying, like, I like this pocket, I don't like this pocket. And some right, some wrong, as is the case most years.
Yep, that's how this game rolls. It's fun looking at these ones. Like, we'll start starting pitchers, the one you tweeted out. Got a lot of discussion points. Curtle and I even talked about it briefly on my last episode of Bench with Bubba. And what I loved about it was what, like, you did the top 30 in ADP and basically how they're ranked now. And like Vlad Sedler said, I think it's like what I could count, but I'm not. He said there's like 16 are in the top 30 still or something like that out of the 30. And then Mike Gianella chimed in since like 2017. It feels like it's always anywhere between like 14 and like 18 of the top 30. So it's a consistent thing. And I mentioned that based on, like, Dave Petroziello is a listener to the show. He said, well, does this mean we'll change our strategies next year? I said, no, because we don't any year. Like, this is the same thing that happens every single year. And to me, the reason you don't change it is it emphasizes how important those top guys are. Because if you look at the Bloom board, like the left side of the board, the top 15, more often than not, they didn't crush you. What crushed you was the back end of the top 30. So if you waited on starting pitching, you could have got some big ones. You got Gallen, who's second, Framber that's ninth, Kirby, Musgrove, Snell. But then you also had Fried, who's hurt, Manoah, Darvish hasn't been great, Rodon, Hunter Green. There's a lot of more red squares. Let's put it that way. So it's a good visualization of, okay, this is why we push pitching up. It's still volatile. There's no hiding that. But there's definitely a method to the madness, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And so just a couple of things to add on, because there were some really good kind of responses to it. One of the things that, and actually, so for anyone listening, we have the boards up on the YouTube version of this pod. So if you go to the YouTube link that we're tweeting out, you can actually kind of follow along and see this. I'm sure I'll tweet everything out from the podcast account as well. But with starting pitching, it's funny because a couple replies that I got were like, well, this is why I don't draft starting pitching early. And it's like, I mean, if you took DeGrom, Verlander, and Sandy and Woodruff early, like, you may feel that way right now, but you have to have starting pitchers. Like, you can't punt starting pitchers because it's even worse at the end of the draft, and not even the end of the top 30, which is what we're looking at tonight. But like, if you don't get good starting pitching, you're just dead in the water. And just like previous years, you're not really going to be able to pick up good starting pitching out of Fab. And actually this year, like, there have been more
all the prospects.
Some have worked, some haven't though. Like, that's the
almost
thing.
50-50.
Exactly. And you're spending a crap load of money.
And they're all going to get shut down for the most part. Not all of them, but a lot of them are going to start getting shut down. And then we're going to really see people cry.
And so, like, it's just for me, it's what makes this game so hard is, like, a lot of these starting pitchers are going to go bust. You still need to stock up on them anyway, because you have to have pitching in order to compete. You have to have good pitching in order to compete. And if you punt starting pitching and you don't draft any of them early, you really have to hit on a lot of guys in the mid and end game in Fab. And that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, I'm going to throw this out there for now. We might forget about it, but a fun exercise for us to do in, say, October is add a third column for second half or end of season rank to go with this to see. I guarantee you, like, you look at maybe Manoah has a good second half, Darvish improves, Rodon improves, and now these picks in the top 30 look so much better because of those guys that we mentioned. Like, say, as much as we like Brian Wu, he's going to get babied the rest of the way. He might not have much value at all outside of a long reliever out of a bullpen. And like, there's just a bunch of guys going down the pipeline that could, I don't know, make this chunk. It's just the first half we're talking about. And given if you had Manoah, he could have buried your team by now. It doesn't matter. So like, it really doesn't matter how his second half is. You might have dropped him. He's not even on your team for second half. I was going to
say, and when if Manoah comes back in the second half, it's probably for a different team.
Exactly. So then, like, my argument's probably null and void. But let's say you do have Darvish still, who a lot of guys, like, I have surprised. I've in like Discords I'm in is, hey, are we like still believing in Darvish? People are like just starting to go out on Darvish, and I'm like, guys, if you look at the rest of your options out there, I'd say you're still pretty much in on Darvish. That's just me. So I guarantee, like, he's Darvish is ranked 75th right now in starting pitchers after the first half. That's going through sicknesses and some other things. I'd be willing to put a beer bet on any listener here that goes to FPAS. He finishes better than 75th at the end of the season. Like, this reminds me of like our Woodruff talk and stuff last year.
Yeah,
and that's kind of my long-winded way of saying, let's not get, this is a great board to give us an idea, but let's see how the full system plays out at the end before we get too excited.
Yep. And it is like, I was going to make the comment of like, the Cole versus Burns debate, this preseason. I know we both had Cole. Pretty sure we both had Cole ahead of Burns.
We were both not high on Strider though, and look where Strider's at. So
exactly. and even still, like, so Cole is 7th right now. Burns is 35th. Like, that's a hell of a lead. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Burns closes that gap in the second half. So it's just, I don't know. It's an interesting checkpoint. The biggest takeaway, or just one of the interesting things that I saw, was like from ADP, like 55 to 90 ish, where you're maybe getting your second starter, or if you wait on starting pitching, this is your ace. The boomer bust, like whether or not you pick the right guy or not in that category, in that pocket of ADP, is dictating how your season is probably going. Because you have Alek Manoah, you have Darvish, who we just talked about at 250 and 75th. The next two guys in ADP, top 10 pitchers: Zack Gelof, number 2, Framber Valdez, number 9. Then you've got Robbie Ray, ADP 70. He's obviously done. But then you go Joe Musgrove, who's been a top 30 pitcher despite everything, which is kind of crazy. George Kirby, Blake Snell, top 25. Between those guys is Tristan McKenzie, 165. So and then Carlos Rodon, injuries, whatever. It was interesting to me to see the market value a lot of those guys right in the same round. And at least halfway through the season, for some of these guys, the season's done, but at least halfway through the season, seeing the wild variance in results so far.
Yeah, 100%. So it'll be fun to see how that plays out. But to be the moral of the story is, and I'm glad that I was liking the wait on pitching this year too in a lot of leagues. Like I got lucky, like Gallen, Valdez, Snell were high on my list, Musgrove even. But I look back on the teams I'm doing really well in. I have at least one of those guys that were drafted in the top 15 ADP.
It's
pitchers.
Yep. It's like it's the worst podcast content out there, but if you pick the right guys, any strategy works. If you waited on players, exactly. If you waited on starting pitching and you picked Zack Gelof and Framber Valdez, did the strategy work?
This year,
yeah. Did you just pick the right guys? Yes. And if you trust your evaluation over what the market's saying, then yeah, do that. But you could do the same thing next year, and
that's what I was going to say. I guarantee you, we could do this exercise on June. It'll be 12th next year, based on the way the calendar works. And I guarantee you, I'll be in the red guys instead of the green guys. It's just the way this game plays. It's just it doesn't matter. So you got to run good once in a while, and that's kind of how this game goes.
Yep.
Let's go bullpen. Let's have some fun with the bullpen. We're gonna see how quick Ryan can operate his bloom boards today. It's gonna be fun.
I mean, I know we had the week off, but that's a pretty quick pivot.
He's dialed in. I'm impressed.
Normally I stumble my words, try and find the damn tab, but I came prepared, Bubba.
The thing that's fun with relievers, you tweeted about it, and some other guys have mentioned it on podcasts lately, is there hasn't been much turnover this year compared to years past. Like, there's still kind of committees, but they're almost more like 75-25. It's like, okay, the dude's worked 3 days in a row, he's going to get a breather. That's the committee, not like, hey, these guys are just like going to be in different leverage situations. Like, even Paul Sewald almost has 20 saves. And that's one of those where coming into the season, he was supposed to be the strong side of a committee with, like, Munoz has been out, I get it. But my point is there's a lot of teams that were like that aren't like that right now. So when you're looking at this bloom board, Ryan, what are you seeing?
A lot of green, Bubba, which means if you paid up for closers, you made the right move, unless you took Ryan Helsley, which, again, halfway through the season, Ryan Helsley's 48th overall ranking could very much increase. But at least halfway through the season, of the top 15 relievers taken, it looks like 11 of them are in the top 15, and 13 of the top 15 are within the top 25. I know that's a lot of numbers I'm kind of throwing out there. Basically, you've had two busts. You've had Ryan Helsley and Scott Barlow. Yeah. Scott Barlow's even gotten you 11 saves. Like, I don't know. There has really been no just total disaster. Edwin Diaz is not on this board. At Liam Hendricks, who had a great speech last night at the ESPYs, by the way.
Amazing speech. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. That's all I can say.
Yep. Not on this board because, again, these were drafts in late March, early April. But I don't know. It's fascinating to me to see basically every early closer hit. And if this holds throughout this season, we thought closer prices were high coming into 2023. I think closer prices are going to be through the roof even more next season, because really there's two types of bullpens. There's one that have a closer, and there's bullpens that have 2 or 3 different closers, or teams that are just terrible and don't get enough saves. These guys, if none of the bullpens that have dedicated closers, if none of those guys really bust, there's just no movement in the fab market, and that's what we've seen this year. And so it's I don't know, just a fascinating. I've never seen the market hit on this many relievers in a season before, and I've been doing this for 10-11 years.
Because I think this, I'm going to tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the preseason we were going over finishes last season based on ADPs, and then we obviously did our pockets and everything, and even then every position, even relievers, there was always the kind of reds thrown in throughout the whole thing. It's like you said, this is nuts to see. And I'll flat out say it now. I will take my L's right now. Camilo Duvall's 4th. Alexis Diaz is 2nd. I will take my L's there. like I'm happy with the closers I have because they're still in the green section of the world because almost all of them are in this section. But I'll take my L's right now. I said Alexis Diaz and Camilo Duvall were not worth their ADPs, and I'm here to take the other side of the spectrum on these ones. So it's impressive watching. Like I still watch Duvall most nights, and there's certain games where he scares the snot out of me. But man, when he's on, it's filth. It is pure filth what he's got on that mound, and he's somehow, some way, making it happen right now. And I'll take my L's on those two.
It's interesting to see our spirited preseason debate of Devin Williams versus Ryan Presley.
I was going there next. I'm like, it's not even that big of a gap.
Yeah, it's really not. Like Devin Williams is 5th and Presley's 8th. Presley's quietly been like really good
of late.
lately.
Like if we did this board like 2 weeks ago, even it'd probably be a bigger gap.
I mean, I will admit Presley had my heart thumping early this season, and because he just struggled and just wasn't pitching. But he's turned it around quietly. So yeah, it's just fascinating. Really the only like okay guys have been Kenley Jansen again. Still, that's not a bad pick. 20th overall reliever.
Almost got 20 ADP saves at the break still.
Exactly. Joan Duran, Raisel Iglesias, I guess you could make a little quibble there, but yeah, I don't know. The crazy thing is if you did wait for relievers and went like Bednar, Alexis Diaz, good Lord.
Yeah, you're sitting real pretty good right now. All right, let's head to some position players. I believe we'll go to the
next
outfield first. I'm just going to go down the way the outline looks. We'll go outfielders here, and this is a fun set here as you got some like Aaron Judge. Too. That number is going to keep falling if he doesn't play anytime soon. But for the most part, top 15, green. 16 through 30, red for the most part. The one on there's two on the bottom 15 that I'm going to mention. Adolis Garcia's third. The dude just continues to crush. It's ridiculous. I know we all talked about it for us to do that too early draft that we all forgot about him in the first 7 rounds like a bunch of idiots. I still think back about that because like I'm winning the league right now, but the overall would be so much sweeter with Adolis Garcia on that team right now. And I went heavy hitting early. The other guy I'll mention here is, and this is like, I'll take my L's, but I'll also give us some kudos on some things, Ryan. We were all about taking Christian Yelich at his ADP. We kept talking about this is who he is now. He's like a 15, 20 guy or whatever. At least I thought we both did. We were pretty confident, like this is who he is. This is a very quality player. You're going to get a great floor with ceiling. And his ceiling has been outstanding. He's 6th right now. And so those are the main 2 guys on the right-hand side of the board to be worth anything right now. But what else is your takeaway from this?
No, Yelich has been great. I have him in tout and labor.
That's what I thought. I thought so.
Will not admit that I expected this.
No, I thought this might be his end of season stats.
Yeah. But I did think the market was really low on Yelich. I think that is the takeaway so far with outfield is it is that basically the top 15 hit outside of Jazz. Varsho, you didn't even take. I mean, Varsho shows up on the board, but that's a catcher. We'll get to catchers in a little bit. And Michael Harris, 68th right now. I think that number is going to improve greatly in the second half. So really, like Jazz is your only true bust, and that's injuries. Trout will probably.
Were you drafting Jazz for second base or the outfield? Is my question. Yeah. Still a bust regardless, but yeah.
But most of the early outfield, you're doing very well for yourself.
Yordan at 23 and Judge at 24, and they've missed over a month each.
Yep,
that's how good they were.
And Yordan is coming back, and Judge is not. So that'll be it. Fernando Tatis is interesting to me at 10. He missed a month, and he's already 10th. So like, if you played that game, you did very well for yourself. Kyle Tucker, I think, is interesting. At least what I've seen, kind of heard the narrative is he's having a down season.
Yep.
He's the number 9 outfielder. If that's your down season, that's pretty elite. Mookie Betts, I know we kind of went back and forth on Mookie a little bit preseason. The number 2 outfielder.
Pretty good. He's been pretty good. He doesn't steal though. That was our argument. That was our argument where his draft was. Now, is he returning value? 100%. So maybe get steals elsewhere. But I think that was the big argument was where you were drafting him at ADP in the back end of the first round. You were trying to get steals at that point in the draft. Like I think at one point it was like Betts or Tatis, who we taken, and that was like a discussion point. And right now Betts is outranking him, but when it comes to 5x5 roto in the end game, Tatis probably your dude. I think I'll still stand by that. But Betts has done much. The power is what's been impressive with Mookie Betts. Like, we knew he had power, but what he's tapped into this season has been a whole nother level, which is pretty good. As long as he doesn't have his pitcher from the home run derby come in, he'll be just fine.
7 steals, not nothing, but
nothing.
So I don't know. You just go through like all those names, those early. Your boy Randy Rosarena, number 7 outfielder. Corbin Carroll's just been freaking nuts. Lou Bubba, we talked about, like, all these names in the top 15 have hit. Yeah, this second 15, Cedric Mullins, okay, injury, but you've got Schwarber, you got Teoscar, Tommy Edmonds, the number 57 outfielder, Eloy. We all know about Eloy, Taylor Ward, Byron Buxton, Brian Reynolds. That's injury, but Jake McCarthy at 108, Jordan Walker 101. Like, there's just been a lot. MJ Melendez, you drafted as a catcher, but still has been really bad. There have really only been, it's been Adelise, Yelich, and like George Springer. And that
Springer's
15
doing
to 30
it quietly
group
too. Springer's doing it very quietly. Every time I see him, I'm like, wow, he's actually producing better than I thought.
Just had a kid too, so maybe some second half dad strength.
I blame Canada. I just don't really pay attention to what's going on with the Toronto Blue Jays because they're not as explosive as years past. The Rangers have kind of taken that mantle this year, and the Braves and the Rays, and the Jays are just kind of pedaling along. They'll probably win the AL East and really make things fun, but we'll see how that goes.
I was surprised to see Jake McCarthy 108 that low. I know he got sent down, that sort of thing. I know he's been on a tear lately, a bunch of steals. I think that'll improve a bunch second half.
Yeah, it goes back to the whole, like, I wonder what these stats would look like with the third column. But I think because a lot, not all, obviously, but a lot from all these boards so far, that if you're in like a reddish pink, a majority of them been involving injuries. That's just the bottom line.
Yep.
And I'm not saying injuries won't happen in the second half, but what if they played their full second half? Now let's see what your roto stats were. And similar to Manoah, you might not even have them rostered anymore. But I think most of these guys you probably still have on your rosters, and see where that goes. Like Jordan Walker might not. That might be on someone else's team. But for the most part, like, you kept Ced Mullins when he got hurt. You kept a lot of these guys. So we'll see how that one goes. And
a lot of it too is like, that's a really good point. Another thing too is, like, you can quibble about the ranks and how Razzball rates, weighs batting average versus stolen bases, that sort of thing, whatever. That's a whole other, that's way over my head, honestly, the how you evaluate certain guys and SGP and all that sort of thing. So you can quibble at the rankings themselves, but Razzball is a very good source for this stuff. One guy I just want to touch on real quick, having a season like that is just weird as hell for me, is Starling Marte.
Yes, good goal.
Like, only has, I think, 5 home runs. Yeah, he's only hitting 256. But he's got 23 steals. Like, that's a really quiet 23 steals.
Running wild, man. Running wild. Yeah, very quiet, because no one talks about Starling Marte. It's a great point.
Yeah, so just wanted to talk about him.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see if he goes out there and finishes with 1540. Let's see if he does that. We'll see how that season goes. Can he up the power just a little bit more this season? All right, are we going middle infield on this one? We're going corner
next.
infield.
Let's do middle. 54.
Middle infield. Here we go. Bingo. All right. Bloom's locked in now, folks. Watch out. That's what vacations can do for people. Lock them in to go here.
Fresh.
Middle infield
wasn't a completely refreshing vacation, but I'm from a baseball standpoint, I'm refreshed.
Man, take the board here. This is not good, Bob.
Yeah, middle infield, and actually a couple of caveats here too. Probably should have done this the other way around, but for position eligibility, I took what they currently are. So Mookie Betts shows up again.
He's eligible at second, short, and outfield, so that counts.
Yeah. Which I like, but like back in draft season, no idea
for sure
that would happen. Middle infield's pretty wild. Your top 10, all of them have hit except for Jazz. You've got Trey Turner, Bichette, Bobby Witt, Betts, Tatis, Semien, Lindor, who I did not realize Lindor is the number 3 middle infielder. Good. Don't have him anywhere. Corey Seager's number 11. With missing a bunch of time, and Ozzie Albies. Holy crap.
That's good to see.
The next 2 guys, so that's your top 60 in ADP. So if you spent big early on middle infield, you were handsomely rewarded. But then you get O'Neal Cruz. Then you get Tim Anderson, who I would even argue, like, O'Neal Cruz is technically 121. Anderson's 90. Anderson's been worse.
Yes.
because
you
played
keep
him the
having to
entire
start
time.
him. At least O'Neill Cruz, you're not starting.
Exactly. Like maybe you picked up some dude off of Fab who's better than Tim Anderson, which isn't that hard to do. So there is just it falls off a cliff so far after that top 10 in middle infield, with the exception of, and I think we've both taken our L's on this.
Big L
recently,
on this one. I've said it a few times. Yep, agree.
Wander Franco, number 4. The stolen base explosion from Wander, did not see coming.
No, that's ridiculous what he's putting together out there, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon either. Like, the dude's just beasting out. He hits for average, throws some pop, just does it all. He's a force to be reckoned with. So I'm curious to see where that moves him up in ADP. A couple other guys I want to mention here. It's good to see the Jonathan India bounce back. He's 10th on this one.
Yeah.
Nico Horner's 12th. He's been very good for the Cubbies. Muncy's somehow still 19th, and he's been, to me, feels like he's not playing great, but Muncy's doing Muncy things. A couple that are just out.
The 3 Luis Garcias that show up on the board is obviously me screwing up, but
it's all good. It's all good. He's been that good. He's worth 43.
None of them have been.
No. The 2 guys that I want to mention that I think are playing better than their rankings, at least of late. So I'm really curious. And so obviously this is full season rankings. That's why they are where they are. But I think second halves are going to be big. Is Andres Jimenez is 31st, and he's been actually really, really good over the last month and a half. And then Willy Adames, I actually wrote about him in an article recently. Over the last week, he really blew up before the All-Star break. If you go back like the last 2 to 3 weeks, you're seeing some market improvements. The average is still not ideal, but the power is returning for Willy Adames. He goes into Great American Small Park this weekend against that team. That could be the jump start we're looking for a second half for Willy. I think Andres Jimenez. So if you didn't take one of the top 10 guys or whatever, but you waited and you got like an Andres Jimenez or a Willy Adames, I think you're going to be okay. Is what I'm trying to say. And then I'll say 2 more, and I'll let you have the floor back again. Gunnar Henderson's going to be a top 10 to 15 guy by the time this is all said and done, as he's figured it out. And Xander Bogaerts is heating up too. So that's 2 guys I want to mention. So there could be a lot more green on this before we finish this up next at the end of the season.
Yeah, Henderson. So it's interesting. I don't even know if we mentioned Corbin Carroll in the outfield slide.
Yeah, you mentioned him. Yeah.
They weren't going too far apart from each other. And Henderson or Carroll, by the end of draft season, some helium took up, and but from a midseason ranking, that's been a big difference. But like you said, Bubba, Gunnar Henderson will finish better than the 27th middle infielder. I do wonder how many teams dropped Gunnar Henderson when it got real bad in 12s. I don't know if that many folks actually dropped him, but that would sting. You're right. There's a lot of recent improvement. Bogaerts is an interesting case to me, just because he admitted he's playing hurt. There's 2 sides to that coin. Will that continue? I think it's his wrist, either wrist or hand.
It's the wrist. I'll let you have the. But what I do know from news is after their game last Sunday, he had his second cortisone shot, which was scheduled so he could have this break to heal from it. And he said he's been doing this for a couple years now with this wrist. It's been a thing apparently with Xander. And he said after the second cortisone shot, he's good to go for the second half. Like, that's usually all it takes for him to be good for the next 60 games or whatever. So I'll say that much. But back to what you were trying to say about his production.
No, I was just gonna say it's trending back, and that the 2 sides is either he stays hurt or he gets better, uses the break wisely, and it sounds like that's what's going on with Bogaerts. So
what sucks with Bogaerts is if you watch like the tail of the season. So when Machado went down earlier, Bogaerts was dealing with his wrist injury in a bad way, but they couldn't lose both of them. Like, it's been well documented. Yeah. So he played the second Machado came back. Bogaerts gets the first shot, misses like 4 or 5 games. Then he starts. If you look, his production slowly starts getting better. Like, it's like all of a sudden, it's amazing what happens when you let rest and let things heal a little bit. And so now he has his second cortisone shot. We'll see how it plays out. The Padres are starting to heat up a little bit towards the end of the first half too. So that could be.
That's what I was just looking up where the Padres are at in the NL West. I mean, they are 8.5 back, 43-47, but I could definitely see them charging.
Soto was playing better. Machado's Machado. Yep. You got Tatis, just a beast. Like, Ha-Seong Kim's playing very well over like the last month. Like, that team's starting to click. If they can get Darvish to pitch well, don't count them out. That's all I'm going to say. Like, as an NL West guy, do not count them out at all. All right.
One middle infielder. Before we go, I got to give my man, Ahmed Rosario. He's been bad. He's been real bad. One home run.
He's not 42nd bad, though, honestly. That surprises me. Again, it's the way that they configure their rankings, like you said earlier, but he hasn't been that bad.
It's been 2 home runs, 268, 9 steals. The thing is, Rosario plays every day, has been better lately, hitting 325 over the last month, and those runs in RBI will kind of be there just because he plays so much. I think Rosario, just from a sheer positive regression standpoint, won't be a stud or anything in the second half, but I just think that's someone who can quietly put together a good couple months the rest of the way.
And he's available on some 12s because I did some deep diving into my 3 OCs this weekend about how I went deep into the waiver wires, and Rosario's out there. So if you're in need of some middle infield help, like I talked about with Gelof earlier, because it's more than you'd think, Rosario's got a good floor where Gelof might have more of a ceiling, if that makes sense. So have some fun there. Let's go to the corner infield on this one. I'm really looking forward to this board because there has been a wide variety of production in the corner infield world. But yet again, the market rules. This is a trend that we were seeing, and we saw it last year, I think, for the most part. The market, people are sharp out there these days, folks. Maybe not even, very, very sharp markets out there. So, Bloom, what do you got for us on the corner infield?
So I alluded to this earlier in the show when when I was talking about how in the preseason we looked at these middle, late round pockets, and I was saying, you can wait on first base. There's a lot of first basemen I like going later in the drafts. At least through the first half, that has been completely wrong. That has been completely wrong. If you look at this board, the top 10, 12 corner infielders are like the top 12. Like there have been no misses. You could say Manny Machado, maybe Austin Riley, maybe Vlad, but like that's extreme nitpicking. Yeah. And like I think all those guys are going to be just fine in the second half. I was of the opinion that you could wait on first base and get someone like Jose Abreu, get someone like Rowdy Tellez, get someone like CJ Cron, get someone like Anthony Rizzo. I didn't even mention Christian Walker, who's been the only good guy that's been taken outside the top 100.
Top 30 guy, apparently. That's surprising to me.
Who is that?
Josh Naylor wasn't even a top 30 guy. He's been crushing it, but sorry, I was just looking at the board.
No, it's just been the mid to late first base pool. Like if you waited on first base, it's been really bad. Pretty much across the board.
It's been rough. It's been very, very rough at first base. And I guess it just I know we talked about in the preseason that like I'm focusing on like Pete Alonso's and Matt Olson's because I want power. So if you did that was great. But the guy we talked about a lot was Freddie Freeman. And he has lived up to the hype and more this year. He has been so stinking good yet again. And I think we both agreed that, like, okay, year 2 in LA, the power is going to come back a little more. He was kind of unlucky at times last year. But what he's doing now, he's already got 17 homers. He had 21 all of last year. He has 12 steals. He had 13 all of last year. He's hitting 320 again. 72 runs and 61 RBIs. Like, the dude's on pace for, like, 30-plus bombs, 120 runs, 110 RBIs, 20-something steals and hitting over 300. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. And I know not everybody does it, but it seems like, he's a first-round talent that we give the props to, but when it comes to draft day, he always falls in the second round. Always falls because it's like Freddie Freeman. He's boring. I want to go get all these other guys. Like, let's just talk now. Would you, at this point in time, it's all Captain Hindsight stuff. I get it. Would you rather have Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts right now?
Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, and most people were taking Mookie Betts. That's just kind of like, it's just to get an example, obviously, but Freddie Freeman, he's a name I'm very much looking forward to when we start doing our stupid drafts in September or whatever, because I can't wait to see where a guy like Freddie Freeman goes for what he brings to the table, and it's really, really impressive what he's doing.
Another one that's impressive is Pete Alonso. Just very interesting that Pete Alonso is the number 8 corner infielder, and he's hitting 211 with a BABIP that's like 200. Pete Alonso is having that batting average is coming up, I think, considerably. HQ, we're projecting Alonso to hit 270 the rest of the way. I think Pete Alonso is like a 270 hitter. You pair that with the 26 homers, 61 RBI that Pete Alonso already has. Like that guy's, I think, another guy who doesn't get talked about enough, just like with Freeman. So you don't get the stolen bases. You've only got 3 bags from Alonso, and that is a thing with the way this season has gone with the uptick in steals across the board. But for Pete Alonso to be 8th overall in corner infield with 3 bags and a 211 batting average just shows what the runs, homers, and RBI are doing for him.
I guess this is kind of a testament to how the player rater kind of values different statistics.
Yeah.
It's like you mentioned Pete Alonso 8th. A guy we've clowned on, or didn't, I don't know, clowned on is the right word, but he's been in many boards about will he bounce back, will he get going situations. That's Nolan Arenado, and he's somehow 6th. Like he's ahead of Pete Alonso. Like you look at Arenado's stats: 283, 19 homers, 43 runs, 62 ribbies, 2 stolen bases. That's good. Is it 6th corner infield good? Like I'd take Pete Alonso over him every day long or all day long. It's interesting. Like, but at the same time, I'm saying these negative, I guess, things to Arenado. I guess it's also showing he's actually playing well. So maybe we shouldn't get too
I think,
aggressive.
Yeah, I think some of it, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think some of that is Arenado was so bad in April.
True.
Hit 230 in April. Nolan Arenado in May hit 290, 302, and 364 so far in July. Like, so yeah, it's the valuation. It's like, would you rather have 7 more home runs from Alonso and 70 points less in batting average? I don't know, but it is interesting to see Arenado up to 6, given how bad he was.
Yeah, you mentioned our boy Rowdy. That's a shot to the heart, a very big shot to the heart.
What about and I don't think he was first base eligible in draft season, but Cody Bellinger, who has missed a lot of time
right now.
Okay,
at 24th, man, that's wild.
That's good, and for missing time, for Bellinger to be the 24th overall corner infielder at an ADP of 191, like he was kind of left for dead. And who knows what the second half will turn out.
Dude's hitting 298 on the season.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Never would have guessed that for Cody Bellinger. Hasn't hit better than 239 over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's coming down big time.
327 BABIP, by far the best of his career, yeah.
But, I mean, 9 homers, 11 steals, 298 for Bellinger in limited action.
But look at the barrel and the hard hit rate. Yeah, that's regression's coming, and it's going to be a fierce bitch. That's all I'm going to say. that's not
as you smile into the screen.
It's not going to be good. So it's kind of the flip side. We keep talking about all these guys in red that are like, they've been injured. They're going to have good second halves. I might see Cody Bellinger going from like just neutral to the other side of things at some point in time. That's pretty brutal looking at that overall stat line from Cody Bellinger.
One fade we were both right, not just to, we've been crapping on ourselves this position, save some faces. Jose Miranda, probably the biggest bust of any corner infield guy in the top 30.
Yep, wanted nothing to do with him. So that one, that's what makes these gratified. Like we see a lot of the misses we have, but I'm actually more gratified. Like, okay, the guys I was stone cold on, I'm not touching. When I see them in like bright red, I'm like, okay, at least part of the process was right. Not everything clicks because we still have to rely on human beings to go out there and play baseball. That's tough. But at least when you can kind of do the work and see, okay, this was at least right. We avoided this landmine. Now we probably nailed 3 other landmines along the way, but we avoided this one. So that's pretty good.
Vinny P is the last one that I'll kind of shout out. Like,
one's sad. Yeah.
It sucks. He's hurt.
He wasn't
Obviously
before that though.
He was. That's what I was going to say. Like I mean, Vinny P, and maybe this was related to the injury. Who knows? But hitting 247, 9 homers and 260 plate appearances, that was not good for somebody who the market was really high on. Vinny P went right next to Alex Bregman, and at the time, I think not a lot of people liked Bregman, and Bregman's been the far better pick.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see how that goes. Like when Vinny P had his injury, it came out that he was hurt last year too. So who knows how much that's all going down. But let's wrap it up with my main position.
Your position.
I'm excelling at because I did all the work. And this is where I wish I had this much time to put into every position because it's actually paying off this season in a big, big way. So I can't wait to see. I haven't even looked at this board yet because I wanted to be completely surprised when it shows up on the screen. All the green. And the ones that, yep, that's the number 2 catchers, my most rostered player in an FBC this season. It's glorious. All right, you have the floor, my friend.
No. I mean, if there's anyone on this planet that knew the catcher pool in draft season more than you, I'd like to meet them because you were all over it.
It was the early catchers paid off in a big way. That's one thing to take out of this.
Yep.
But if you did your work over the next 100 to 200 picks, there was still enough guys that did not crush you like other positions. So I guess the moral of the story, when you really look at it, you can wait on catcher if you're taking, because that's the thing is we're seeing every position be top heavy in talent. Well, you can't draft all the top heavy talent. It's just impossible. So this, out of all the boards we've looked at, relievers and maybe catchers would be someone to be like, okay, I can get you get a little more lucky if I wait a little bit longer at these positions, if that makes any sense at all. So, and that was kind of my discussion point all preseason with catchers. I'm like, there's depth at catcher. There is depth. I love the top guys, but there is depth. And I'm just going to say, number 2 overall catcher, Jonah Heim, my man. It's Heim time.
It's Heim time. 264 ADP, 3 picks ahead of someone who's on all of my teams. Maybe I should actually listen to you. Yasmani Grandal, who's on all my teams, when 3 picks later than Jonah Heim is the number 28 catcher. That's really brutal. Yeah, so this was by far the deepest first catcher class that I've ever seen, where we had, I think, 10 catchers going in the first 150 picks. And looking back preseason, halfway through the season, really only 2 have went belly up. Alejandro Kirk, which has been just a total disaster, and MJ Melendez, who I still think will turn around, but has pretty much been a disaster as the 19th ranked catcher. Alejandro Kirk, the number 39 catcher. That's
brutal.
Really bad. But everyone else in that top 150, if you spend a top 10 pick on one of these catchers, Tyler Stevenson, Willie Contreras, Sean Murphy's just been incredible. Wilson Contreras has been fine. Sal Perez, Rutschman, Will Smith, Varsho, again, who has been okay, but number 9 catcher, maybe that's a semi bust. And then JTR, 5th catcher, for him, really bad season. I think that'll get better. So, and then there's even guys, like Patrick Bailey's, there's a lot of undrafted guys to kind of go further, Bubba, to your point about how you could wait on this position and still do pretty well.
And there he is, Christian Betancourt's 24th. I'd still take that at ADP 329. That's the thing is when you're looking at catchers, you see some of the reds, you don't want to be in red, obviously, especially the deep ones like Joey Bart and Luis Campisano. But some of those still top 30-ish guys, I guess, look at where you drafted them. It didn't cost you anything. So the replacement value for where you took other players, maybe it panned out. Who knows? But it's actually interesting to see Shane Langolier 17th because he's quietly been doing that. So that's good to see. The late Blake Sable love has paid off in a big way.
Thought he died or something.
No, it's paid off in a big way. Yes, it shows the depth of catchers, and it also, I kept saying, take one of the top. My goal is always one of the top 12 guys in my rankings, and then I'll take a backup dude. And my backup dude was always Jonah Heim, but William Contreras was a big dude of mine, and that was just a thing. And has he been great? No, he's been better of late. The Brewers are heating up, folks. Remember, I'm Team Brewers. If you remember the preseason podcast, outside of Rowdy Velez, the rest are starting to get going. So we'll see how that goes. But the catcher's position, similar to the reliever's position, it reminds me of running back in the NFL. You have a couple guys that are the dudes, and then you have committees. And so you want to get a dude, and then you want to get one of the better committee catchers. And that's kind of the way I look at things. And it's been fun seeing how that's broke out so far this season.
Did not realize Elias Diaz is the number 8 catcher. That All-Star MVP.
Yep, All-Star MVP.
277, 9 home runs.
As a DH. Wasn't even catching. As the DH.
Yeah. So
I gotta love baseball these days. Yeah, I just pulled up his page and 277, 9 homers, 27 runs, 45 RBIs. I bring that up to say that's the 3rd or the 8th best catcher. That shows you, yes, they're ranked high, but that's the stat line you're getting again. So this is why people wait on catchers at the same time. So I'll give a little grace to those that wait. Is if this is a top 10 catcher, the stat line doesn't jump off the board type thing. But if you drafted Joey Bart instead or something, he hurt quite a bit. But then again, you've replaced him with probably Christian Betancourt or someone off the waiver wire. So who knows?
Do you remember the 3-headed monster early in draft season in Toronto with Kirk, Gabriel Moreno, and Danny Jansen? Jansen's number 15, but
and he
outside
missed a lot
of that,
time, which is telling you how good he is.
Yeah. So just interesting.
Yeah, fun bloom boards as always. That's why I love seeing Ryan tweeting these out earlier in the week. I'm like, okay, let's knock these out on the show because there's a lot of ways to take these. We could have done this for 3 hours. I kept a lot of it in. We could have gone player by player, and they might call us members of the Meatball Mafia by the time this is done. And no one wants to come for us for that. They go to Rob for that. Modica. That's what they do. We're just here to give you the cliff notes of the bloom boards. But any final thoughts on the bloom boards before we answer a few questions for listeners?
We may go that deep this offseason. I'm sure we'll revisit.
In the off seasons, I'm down to go down some rabbit holes. Yes,
but that is a good idea to maybe
compare
take the mid-season rank and then add that third column with the final.
I just think it's valuable, especially for certain players. Not all, obviously, but when you're rostering guys in Roto, you just want that end of the season stat line. So most of these guys you're starting regardless of production for the most part. It's either like we've talked about, we're just blind to how bad they've been and we're just starting them and now we're already pot committed, like here we go, or it's like we know this guy's going to turn it around, like he's going to get there, whatever biasy or whatever you put in your brain. Most of these guys that you drafted early that are struggling, you're probably still rostering them, if not starting them. And that's just so in the end game, that's all that matters. Well, we'll see how it turns out. I think it's an interesting philosophy. All right, let's take some listener questions on this one, and they involve our boards somewhat for the most part. Beat Rick and Frank said, JB, Votto, Josh Bell, Ryan O'Hearn, or Sodestrom at first base for the rest of the season. I go Joey Votto.
Same. Pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's really not as close as I think it should be. Joe G, our buddy, asks, who do you like more rest of season, Canning or Pivetta? He needs wins and strikeouts per 9, mixed Roto. If you need wins, I'd lean Canning, even though Pivetta is supposed to be the backup of a opener situation. But how long / will it work? It's Pivetta. I lean Canning. What about you?
I'll lean Pivetta, knowing that it's very much dependent on Boston using Pivetta, how they've used him the last few times out, which could very well go to crap in the second half. So the thing with wins, like the Angels,
yeah, that's true.
With no Trout,
K per 9, Pivetta is going to be your dude. So that's probably a good call.
Yeah, and Boston can hit. Like I don't know. I think it's close, but I'll lean Pivetta. I'll take somewhat of a leap of faith that Pivetta's last 3, I don't want to call them starts, but he's like the bulk guy in Boston. Again, assuming this holds, but has 21 strikeouts and 5 walks and a win, and he's going but like 4 to 5 innings as the bulk guy. Like that's win central. Again, that could change at any point, and he could snap back to me, Nick Pivetta. But I think I'd lean that way. I just Canning's decent. I just if the Angels don't get Trout back and they trade Ohtani, like good Lord, they're not going to score any runs.
It's a whole other podcast, but I hope they trade Ohtani for their own franchise. Is good. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. I hope it happens just to see what the haul is. But
they need to rebuild, and that's they're not re-signing him. So you just have to accept it and swallow your pride and if you think of the future, you trade Ohtani. That's all I'm going to say.
He should just listen to the Seattle. Did you see that at the All-Star game? The
Seattle
chants.
Fans.
Yeah, that was well.
Then there's an article with Alex Cobb and him are apparently good workout buddies from when Cobb's with the Angels. So there's pictures of them talking and laughing. And Cobb said after the game that we were talking about it. He's going to be a Giant next year. It's simple.
Nice.
I know he's joking, but that they went deeper into they work out in the offseason together and stuff.
Huh.
Which I did not.
I would not.
I would never put two.
Forgot Cobb was even on the Angels. But
that's where he got his renaissance. The sphere usage changed, and all of a sudden it's that's one way to get a guy to a team is the Giants got money. A, they have a good Asian culture. B, and he's got a good buddy on the team. They're still not the favorites. He's going.
Bubba, let's remind you what happened last offseason.
He's going. Gerald Points has 2 questions. I'm going to just leave the show. 2 questions. 15-team, 8x8 categories. I don't even know what the 8 categories are, but 8x8. First question. There's 2 DH spots currently filled with Isak Paredes and Jake Berger. On the bench, he has Colton Cowser and Adam Duvall. Which 2 can I move, and what type of player should I expect back? Any position, pitching or hitting. I would move Adam Duvall, and I'd move Colton Cowser. That'd be my 2 cents. Or you could move Berger if you wanted to. Berger's kind of slowed down. But you're keeping Paredes. I know that much.
Yeah.
Which 2 would you move?
You're keeping Isak. Again, not know the 8x8. That's wild. I have been in a 7x7, and that's wild.
8x8's deep.
I don't think Berger's. I don't think Berger's going to play regularly. Chicago has kind of showed their hand when they are close to healthy. Duvall is losing playing time, and Cowser. You could probably get the most in return for Cowser. So maybe Cowser and either Duvall or Berger. Just keep Paredes, whatever you do.
Yep, keep Paredes, whatever you do. And if you're trading those 2 guys, I'm bad at telling you who to get back, especially not knowing the 8x8. So those would be your 2 guys to start shopping. Let's put it that way. His second question, same league, 8x8, 1 catcher. He has MJ Melendez, but Blake Sable is in the free agent pool. Should he make the switch?
Oh,
wait, so this gets deeper now. This is a keeper league where all the players can be kept from 23, 24, and 25.
I'm going to be stubborn.
I want Melendez if you can keep him. I'll tell you that right now. Keep Melendez.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm going to be stubborn and stay on Melendez. I think this is going to turn around.
I do too. I'm with you there.
Do you think, Bubba, that Sable continues to play most days?
I think he continues to play because the Giants just can't stay healthy, and his batting average isn't great, but he's still producing very well. Let's put it that way compared to the rest of the lineup.
I mean, Sable has a much better line than MJ. It's not even that close, but again,
Blake Sable's 13th overall catcher.
Yep. But still,
I still go, especially the keeper aspect. You keep MJ Melendez. That's just the way I go with that one.
Agreed.
All right, Kevin Alvis says, Ryan, when you touch on catchers, could you share what you think about Jonah Heim as a dynasty keeper at a high level? Thanks. This is not a burner of mine, anybody. I promise.
Yeah. BUBBA 1652. The question. No, it's pretty sweet what Jonah Heim has done in terms of powering up, but we see this a lot where the power skills go up, but it usually comes at a cost of strikeouts. Not happening with Jonah Heim. Like he's actually improved, cut down on the strikeouts while improving his raw power. All of the HQ metrics back that up. Jonah Heim is a little bit older, so I think this is, if this is like a keeper angle. Catcher is one of those positions where I don't really worry that much about age. It can take a while for these guys to find their footing, and even for Jonah Heim in the MLB level, this is only his 3rd year. Like he's still, I don't say he's young, but he's on the upswing. And I mean, we obviously know how you feel about him, Bubba, but I think this is pretty legit. And the lineup, like you can't overstate how great that lineup has been around him, and that's tough to project from keeper dynasty. But like a lot of these Texas bats are locked up for quite some time.
Are locked up.
Yeah.
I think obviously I'm biased, but I'll highlight one thing you said there. When it comes to keeper dynasty, catchers are one of my last priorities. Period. Because they can all fall off a cliff so much because the injuries happen so much more frequent to catchers, just wear and tear on catchers. You mentioned his age, like MLB years different, but still minor league. He's played a ton, so he's worn down. But I think you'll get a few good years out of him for sure. If you want to keep him for another year or two or try to flip him after another big year or something, okay, I get that. But don't hang on to him too long as a catcher. There's going to be a lot of catchers. Heck, the Giants draft like 3 catchers every draft. Like Patrick Bailey just overtook Joey Bart. People were raving about Joey Bart. Like these guys fluctuate so much throughout the systems. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Last question. GA Man 8 asks, for the starting pitchers listed here who weren't top 70 for the first half, Who are your top 3 rest of the season for Roto?
Here,
So can you bring that
I'll
one back
pull it
up?
back up. So is anyone outside of the top 70 for starting pitchers?
Yeah, the top 70 rankings. Who are your top 3 rest of the season for Roto 5 by
So that
5?
were drafted among the top 30, but are now outside the top 70. So our options would be DeGrom, Verlander, Sandy, Woodruff, Cease. Technically, Cease at 73, which is just wild. Max Fried at 107, Manoah, Darvish, Hunter Green, Carlos Rodon, and 200
That's
guys.
a heck of a list, honestly.
I know. Well, that's the thing. Is like there's still and this is not the danger of doing it mid-season. It's the All-Star break. What else? I mean, it's a fun kind of mid-year check-in. Of those guys that I just kind of rattled off, I will say Dylan Cease, even though we have both been off the Cease train. Cease has been much better lately, and I will admit is much better than the 73rd starting pitcher. So I think Dylan Cease is in for a decent second half. I want to say Sandy, but just because he's done it and he's been there and he's presumably healthy. A lot of these other guys, like I don't know when Woodruff's coming back. That could be a while. Maybe Max Fried's probably my third guy to take if he was asking for 3, because Fried is. It sounds like he's back.
He's doing his second rehab start on Saturday for Rome. Yeah. Should get up to 50-ish pitches. So I think he's got maybe 1 or 2 more after that, and he's back.
Would you consider like Verlander or Rodon?
I'm going to go Cease, Fried, and Darvish. Darvish is the one, just because every time we count the dude out, he gets the job done. He's been banged up / sick. Like he lost so much weight even over his last illness. It was a weird illness. So I'm going to take my chances on Darvish on a very good Padres team coming back. I don't trust Rodon's health to save his life. Hunter Green's an interesting one, but he's not going to be back to like sometime in August, so that kind of stinks. Woodruff's supposed to be back at the end of July, beginning of August. We'll see.
Dude, it doesn't sound good. Like just reading in between, they're like good Woodruff update, and he like threw like 25 pitches in it. Like I don't know.
The Alcantara one's the interesting one. That one's he's just been so underwhelming. Like it's been brutal, man, brutal. But he's done it before, like you said. So. At least
Would you? So we haven't talked about Verlander too. Verlander and Sandy are about the same. I'm pretty amazed at how bad Justin Verlander's skills look right now. I would definitely take brutal. Sandy over Verlander the rest of the way.
I think I agree with you on that one. It's crazy. It's close, but yes, I think I agree with you on that one. Definitely would not take DeGrom. I'm out on that one, Don. But
and Tristan McKenzie would be, and Robbie Ray would be out on as well.
Yeah, out on those guys. Okay, just for fun, this wasn't a listener question, but let's talk Christian Javier for a second. He's 52nd on this list. He has gotten his start skipped before the All-Star break to let him, quote-unquote, rest some more. This is a guy that, remember, even in FPAS last year, the hype train was rolling in a big, big way, and it's been brutal. 4.34 ERA so far, 4.92 xFIP. His last 2 starts, he's given up 14 runs in 8 1/3 innings. He's not striking anybody out. Nobody. He has a total of like 10 strikeouts over his last 5 starts. I am extremely concerned, and Jose Urquidy's going to be back in about a week or so.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like, what will the Astros do? Because I don't think, if Javier's in the rotation, maybe you're not starting him, but you're not cutting this guy. I think, I don't know, when someone completely falls off a cliff like this at Javier's age, usually like 2 things. It's injury or it's either like tipping pitches or mechanical. I tend to lean the latter. I think this is temporary. The velocity has been steady for Christian Javier, so I don't know if it's an injury. I just wonder if he is tipping pitches or just some kind of adjustment that needs to happen. I think from what we saw from Javier in the second half of last season and early this season, I don't think that just goes away unless he's hurt, which I don't think he is. So I'll be the more optimistic side and think that Javier rebounds.
That's very, very good of you. All right, we'll wrap it up right there. Good to be back on Bubba in the Bloom. Got a big second half push to go here. Any final thoughts, Ryan? As we're technically over halfway through the season, I think we have about 10 or so weeks to go, 10 or 11 weeks to go.
Let's get these games back. Let's get back in the groove. It's been too long for me.
Yep, going to be a fun weekend ahead of baseball action. Watch people tilt all over Twitter yet again. It's going to be beautiful. Make sure you check out Ryan on Twitter at RyanBHQ, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod. I'm on Twitter at BDendrick. And until next time, Bubba and the Bloom, episode 64. Catch y'all later.